Yo, brothers, what's up? It's the Director, Chargers fans. Good morning, how you guys doing? All right, dudes, we're gonna be doing a fun video today. The Chargers win-loss prediction video, my first one of the year for the 2020 season. Now, this is the video where I get a little bit worried about the comment section because I know there's a lot of passionate fans out there, which good for you guys, man. Rep your team. But truth be told, the Chargers are not going 16-0 this year, right? This is my opportunity to be honest with you guys, to be straightforward with you guys, give you guys my realistic projection of what I think is going to happen in the 2020 season. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad by any means. The Chargers have a lot to prove this year. Our defense, guys, is a force to be reckoned with this year too. So I'm pretty optimistic about the Bolts, but this is my realistic take on what could happen in the 2020 season with our active roster. We've got Tyrod Taylor at QB1, Justin Herbert kind of waiting in the wings. The team said that they want him to wait and sit and learn for as long as possible, which is a decision that I completely agree with. So let's jump into this video. But before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you guys do enjoy these videos. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot, and we're almost at 15,000 subs because of you guys. Thank you so much. Let's get into this video. Week 1 versus Cincinnati. The Chargers traveling out to face the Bengals. A nice slow integration into the season this year. We've got a new quarterback situation in Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. I think we're going to be just fine this first week. Never underestimate your opponent, ever, no matter who it is. It could be the 2001 Browns for all I care. Never underestimate an opponent. But the Cincinnati Bengals are in a similar situation where they're kind of, I wouldn't say similar situation, but they're in a rebuild. They had the #1 pick for a reason. They got a brand new quarterback coming in for his first game ever in the NFL, and Joe Burrow. I think it's going to take some time for him to get acclimated to the NFL too. So I'm going to say he struggles a little bit. The Chargers may be getting used to our offense too. Maybe a bit of a low-scoring game. I'm going to give it 17-10. Chargers. Gonna give ourselves a first dub in the win column for the Bolts. Week 2, we're gonna take a 180 as far as quality of opponent. I hate saying that because it sounds like I'm ragging on the Bengals, but at the same time, the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, dude. We have to respect the Chiefs. I hate it because they're in our division. We're gonna have to go through them, you know, year after year if we want to make it to the playoffs, but this is the world we live in, man. Patrick Mahomes came out there and showed us things that I didn't know existed with the quarterback position. I think their defense is still a little bit suspect, maybe in the secondary, but they seem to be pretty good in the second half of the year. This is gonna be a really tough game, a true test for Tyrod Taylor, maybe Justin Herbert, most likely Tyrod Taylor. I'm going to give this a final score of 21-34. I think the Chargers try and climb back into this one, but the Chiefs just keep putting up too many points. That's going to be our first L in the column in this video. Yikes, but at the same time, it's the Chiefs, man. We're going to have to figure out how to beat them if we want to make it to the big game. Week number 3 versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers looking a little bit new themselves. They've got Teddy Bridgewater at QB1. So a couple new quarterbacks coming into this game. 24-21 is the score I'm going to give here. I think the Panthers have a pretty good defense, but not the greatest. And their offense, as good as it is with Christian McCaffrey, I don't really know anybody else other than Christian McCaffrey, maybe Teddy Bridgewater, that can operate it. Maybe DJ Moore, I think. Is that his name, Moore? They don't have Greg Olsen anymore, so it's going to be a little bit of a tougher one. Still, I think it should be a fun game. I'm going to give it a final score of 24-21 Bolts. That's going to be our second win, so we're going to go 2-1 into week 4. Week 4 at Tampa Bay, the newly led Tom Brady Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a game that I think could go either way. It all depends on how Tom Brady operates in Tampa Bay rather than in New England. I still think he's a force to be reckoned with, even in his older age. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they offer him so much on that offense, a pretty decent line. They got themselves some crazy wide receiver talent. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They've got O.J. Howard and Cameron Braid out there. I mean, and I think Perryman left, right? Still, I mean, that offense is absolutely ridiculous. Anything could happen, man. I'm going to say this game goes 17-28 Tampa Bay. We're going to take an L in this column once again. I just think that whole unit, the whole cast of that offense, and the pretty decent defense at that too. I think the only thing I wasn't concerned about was their secondary, but man, their rush D is so tough. So I'm going to give this an L, 17-28 Tampa Bay. Week number 5 in New Orleans. This is one of my favorite games when we do play. I love Drew Brees so much. Ex-Charger, very happy for him finding success out in New Orleans, winning a Super Bowl. They are a very, very tough team, dude. What happens after this year, I don't know what their situation at quarterback is going to be looking like. But this year, they're so good. Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, their defense is pretty stacked as well. It's going to be a very tough game for us, too. I think the Chargers, come off to a slow start. We never quite catch up. I'm going to give it a 16-24 score. It's going to be another L in the column for the Bolts. But moving on to week 6, we go up against the New York Jets, okay? And this matchup seems pretty fair for us on paper. We should be winning this game. But the Jets do have a pretty good defense from what I hear as well. Their offense is starting to click a little bit. They don't have Robbie Anderson anymore, however. Le'Veon Bell's still kind of finding his legs out in New York. But I think it's one that we can definitely handle. I think the Chargers defense, again, is going to be way too much for Sam Darnold. I'm going to give this a score of 27-17, a dub in the win column. Week 7 versus the Miami Dolphins. Remember how I said never disregard an opponent at the beginning of the video? I mean, I still believe that, but this is the Dolphins, okay? And the Dolphins, their situation is almost completely the same from last year. Yes, they had a couple first-round picks come in. They're looking a little bit better, but at the same time, quarterback, they still have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who isn't bad. I mean, a good interim quarterback, but at the same time, coming in with almost the same team that they had from last year, I think we can handle them again. You guys remember that game. It was kind of crazy. I'm going to say the Chargers go off on this game, 34-19. Bolts is going to be another win for the Chargers, and it's getting us ready for some of our tougher opponents coming down the line. Moving on to week 8 versus Jacksonville at home. Gardner Minshew came out and impressed a lot of people last year. Good for him, man. I hope he has a lot of success. I'm a huge fan of his play, of his style, of his swag. And this is one that I feel that the Chargers have a couple of games every year. Well, you guys know it. I know it as a Chargers fan. We drop one or two that maybe we should win, okay? And I think Jacksonville, they've got a pretty nasty rushing attack with Leonard Fournette. They got a pretty decent wide receiver core, DJ Chark, Gardner Minshew. And their defense is still very, very good. And so I feel like, although I want them to win this game, I think they're very capable of winning this game. I think it's going to be a very close one, but ends up going to Jacksonville. I'm going to give it a final score 21-24. Jacksonville is going to be a loss on this column. We always drop a game or two, guys. That's just the way it is as a Chargers fan, but hopefully we don't. And it was going to be a very close score in my prediction there anyway. Next up, week 9, Las Vegas Raiders. One of my favorite games of the year. I have a lot of friends that are Raiders fans, so we all get together, we barbecue, we talk a lot of smack, and this is one I think is going to be a very exciting game. I think one of our first shootouts of the year, the Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Raiders, their offense looks pretty decent. They got Darren Waller out there now. They got Jacobs out there. Derek Carr is maybe a little bit suspect. Their defense is really, really exposed, though, in my opinion. They got a decent pass rush, but their defensive backs are pretty bad. I think the Chargers can take him, and I think it's going to be a shootout. I'm going to give this game a score of 31-28 Bolts. We're going to clutch it out there in the end, take our first win of the year versus this division rival, the Raiders, and feel really good going into our bye week in week 10. After our bye, week 11 versus the Denver Broncos in Denver. I think this is going to be an interesting game. The Chargers and the Broncos have a really interesting history where I feel like we can definitely take them. And this year they have quarterback Drew Lock out there. He seems pretty good, but he's still kind of unsure, but he has a lot of weapons, man. New acquisition of Melvin Gordon, which we're not even going to get into that. He's got Phillip Lindsay, Cortland Sutton. They've got a lot of weapons out there we've got to worry about. So you never know what could happen. I think they're going to give our defense a little bit of a problem. It just seems to be a team that always has our number, but we're going to be out in Denver with this first matchup. So I'm going to say they're going to take the win from us in this week. Denver 21-27, the Broncos. That's going to be another L in that column for us. Week 12 versus the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a really fun game in my opinion. I think the Bills and the Chargers have two of the most underrated defenses in the league. I think we have very similar quarterbacks in Herbert and Josh Allen, which we won't see Herbert in this game, but very, very interesting to see the similarities between these two teams. And kind of appropriate that the Chargers are molding a little bit because of where our coach came from. Anthony Lynn came from Buffalo just before the Chargers. So I think this is going to be a fun game, but it's going to be a very defensive-oriented game. I think the Chargers defense come out here and really win the game for us. I'm going to give it a final score of 13-7 Chargers. That's going to be a win in the column there. But it's going to be a very close one. It can go either way. That's one of those teams that you never know. Week 13 versus New England, the brand new New England Patriots. I don't know what to think about this team coming in this year, man. I feel like, what is their quarterback situation? Jarrett Stidham out of Auburn, now QB1 of the New England Patriots. They could still go sign a Cam Newton or somebody. It doesn't feel like they're going to be doing that. I don't know, man. I just feel like their offense is going to struggle severely without Tom Brady, severely without some of the pieces that they lost over the offseason. Their defense could still be pretty good, but at the same time, I don't think this is the same New England Patriots that we've been used to the past decade. So I'm going to give this a final score of 24-16, another win for the Chargers. Week number 14 versus the Atlanta Falcons. I think there's going to be another shootout game. I feel like the Falcons secondary, they lost Desmond Trufant. They still have a couple of good pieces, but their secondary is pretty suspect to me. The Chargers, I feel like our defense is going to be really good too, but at the same time, he has Julio Jones. They got Matt Ryan, a very nice offense. As far as running back, though, I'm not too sure. I know they let go of Devonta Freeman, but still, it's going to be an awesome game. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch, but unfortunately, I do think the Falcons are one of those teams that, again, it's kind of a 50-50. You never know. They could be really terrible. They could be really good. I'm going to say at this point of the season, they rev up in week 14, and they get really good. I'm going to say this is going to be a shootout. Final score of 30-35. That's going to go to the Falcons. That's going to be another L for the Bolts. Week number 15 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Our first matchup with them in their new stadium in Vegas. I think at this point the Raiders are probably a little bit more tuned with their offense, and they're going to be in their home territory this time. I would love to say we're going to spank the Raiders twice. We definitely could. I could definitely see the Chargers beating the Raiders twice next season. However, just from my instinctual prediction, like they've got a little bit of exposure to Tyrod Taylor, the way we're running our offense by that time. I feel like they'll probably clutch out a win here, in the final seconds. I'm going to give it a final score of 19-24 versus the Raiders in Vegas, another L in the column. Let's move on to week 16. I think this could be a really fun game versus Denver at home in LA. I feel like the Chargers and the Broncos are very well versed as far as rivals in the NFL, and I feel like the Chargers really need to get a win versus the Broncos. Again, they have our number, but I feel like we're a better team. I think they show it out there in week 16 at home. Final score 27-24. That's going to be a win for the Chargers out in LA, and I'd be pretty happy if we can beat them at least once. Then final week 17 versus the Chiefs. I feel like the Chargers at this point going into week 17 feel like they can beat anybody, but at the same time, they're just finally starting to get in their footing on offense. And I think they give the Chiefs a run for their money, putting up 27 points. But alas, I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs they outscore any opponent when they really need to. And I feel like that's going to be another instance here. I'm going to give it a final score of 27-35 Chiefs. And that's going to be our final game of the year. So the final record for the Chargers in my win-loss prediction video is going to be an even record of 8-8. And I think that's good, guys. I mean, like, in the situation that we're in, realistically, new quarterback, who knows what Justin Herbert looks like going in the year after. He could definitely start at some point this season, too. You never know. But just with what we have right now, just being realistic, being honest, I think 8-8 is a pretty good prediction. And I think it could definitely happen. I think we could do a lot better, too. There's a couple of games in there that we lost that I think we can definitely win. The 50-50 games I have listed are versus Tampa Bay. We could maybe win ones against the Chiefs. You never know. That one year that we got the two-pointer with Mike Williams, I would love to see that happen again. I think we could definitely win against Jacksonville. I think we could definitely win against the Raiders twice, like I said. I think we could possibly beat Atlanta, and I think that's another, 3 wins. So I think, 11-5 is definitely something realistic for the Chargers too, but my realistic prediction, my honest prediction, is going to be 8-8. Well, now the big question, what do you guys think in the comment section below? What do you think the record for the Chargers is going to be? I'm very excited to see your guys' opinions as well. And again, this is me being honest, but at the same time, my opinion will change over the season. I'm going to do another video like this a little later on, closer to the actual NFL season as things start to solidify a little bit. But I do want to know your guys' opinions as well. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay frosty.